The story begins by showing the bustling world of advertising where Go-ho, a determined young woman, grapples with the pressures of her job. Her leadership team and demanding clients constantly add to her stress, but that's not all she has to deal with. Within her own family, Go-ho faces unfair treatment from her mother, Go-jun, who always seems to favor her older brother, Go-kang. Despite being 29 years old, Go-ho's dreams and ambitions are often overshadowed by Go-kang's struggle with unemployment, resulting from his repeated failures in the civil servant selection exams. One fateful day, Go-ho experiences deep sorrow as she mourns the loss of her mentor at work. Unbeknownst to her, a man named Kang Tae-hoo, her team leader, watches her from a distance, sharing in her grief. Tae-hoo has always been a demanding leader, pushing Go-ho to work hard during their 4 years together. Soon after, Go-ho is unexpectedly transferred to Team B, led by a new team leader. To her astonishment, she discovers that her new boss is none other than her ex-boyfriend, Hwang Ji-hoon. Go-ho and Ji-hoon were in a 3-year relationship until he abruptly ended it without any explanation, leaving Go-ho confused and heartbroken. Their past history makes it uncomfortable for Go-ho to work with Ji-hoon once again. Feeling disheartened, Go-ho approaches Tae-hoo and requests to be transferred back to his team. However, Tae-hoo swiftly rejects her plea. As the welcoming party for Ji-hoon as the new leader of Team B approaches, Go-ho is coerced by Tae-hoo to attend. During the event, a song sung by Ji-hoon captivates Go-ho's emotions, evoking memories of their happy times together. Struggling to hold back tears, Go-ho decides to leave the party. Unexpectedly, she encounters Tae-hoo, who insists on comforting her. Tae-hoo tenderly wipes away her teary eyes, causing Go-ho's heart to race with a mix of emotions. The following day, Go-ho attempts to maintain her distance from Ji-hoon, piquing Tae-hoo's curiosity. To demonstrate that she has moved on from Ji-hoon, Go-ho agrees to go on a blind date set up by her mother. Unexpectedly, Go-ho encounters Tae-hoo at the designated meeting place instead. Unfortunately, her blind date ends abruptly as she is called away for work. Go-ho finds herself facing mounting work problems, which ultimately leads to her spending the night in the office. As she sleeps, a mysterious man enters her workspace and covers her with a blanket to ensure she doesn't get cold. Sometime later, the company organizes a dinner event, but Go-ho chooses not to attend due to her discomfort around Ji-hoon. Instead, she plans to surprise her mother by visiting her house. However, her visit takes an unpleasant turn as she overhears hurtful words from her mother. Feeling disappointed, Go-ho decides to vent her frustrations by inviting her coworker, Lee Hyun, to go to a nightclub together. Coincidentally, the company dinner is also taking place at the same venue. Go-ho loses herself in the joy of dancing, only to be surprised by the presence of one of her junior colleagues, Oh Jong-min. In a moment of impulse, Jong-min nearly kisses Go-ho, but she quickly reacts and strikes him. Tae-hoo and Ji-hoon witness the incident firsthand. Although the kiss is averted, Tae-hoo's jealousy becomes evident as he and Ji-hoon start treating Jong-min coldly in the office. However, Jong-min continues to tease Go-ho, further fueling Tae-hoo's jealousy. Later that evening, Jong-min seeks out Go-ho once again, and without hesitation, he confesses his love to her. On the other hand, Tae-hoo reminisces about the time he attended his mentor's funeral. Unexpectedly, Tae-hoo finds himself accompanying Go-ho throughout the night, providing her solace as she grieves the loss of their mentor. What Go-ho doesn't know is that Tae-hoo was the one who covered her with a blanket while she slept in the office. As time passes, Tae-hoo, known for his grumpy and stern demeanor towards Go-ho, reveals a secret affection for her. Meanwhile, the office where Go-ho works is confronted with the arrival of a lewd producer named Kim Yoo-chan. Yoo-chan is notorious for sexually harassing female employees without facing any consequences, thanks to his connections with higher-ups. However, even Yoo-chan feels intimidated when dealing with Tae-hoo. As days go by, Tae-hoo begins to show a kinder side to Go-ho, causing her to reconsider her opinion of him. She recalls instances of Tae-hoo's past kindness towards her. While riding the elevator, Go-ho confides in her colleague, Lee Hyun, about her evolving perception of Tae-hoo. Unbeknownst to them, Tae-hoo is also in the same elevator, leading him to hide to avoid being discovered. However, Tae-hoo eventually learns that Ji-hoon is Go-ho's ex-boyfriend. This discovery triggers annoyance and jealousy in Tae-hoo when he sees Go-ho spending time with Jong-min. Tae-hoo's jealousy resurfaces, causing him to revert to his stern attitude towards Go-ho. Surprisingly, Go-ho finds herself happy, believing that Tae-hoo harbors feelings for her. Eventually, Tae-hoo discovers that Go-ho and Jong-min were merely having a meal together, prompting Tae-hoo to become kind to Go-ho once again. He even intends to have her join his team. However, Ji-hoon opposes this decision. Furthermore, Ji-hoon brings up a past issue regarding an ad project that was rejected by a client, further straining the relationship between Ji-hoon and Tae-hoo. Their argument becomes witnessed by their fellow employees. Later in the evening, Tae-hoo takes Go-ho to an advertising studio. However, Go-ho falls ill with severe flu during the journey. Concerned about getting infected, Tae-hoo asks Go-ho to get out of his car, intending for her to rest. Unfortunately, Go-ho, in her insensitivity, calls Tae-hoo stupid stupid for dropping her off near her home. As time goes on, a competition is announced within the company, pitting Team A, led by Ji-hoon, against Team B, led by Tae-hoo, to create a promising ad storyboard. Both Ji-hoon and Tae-hoo refuse to back down, determined not to lose. Meanwhile, Jung-min continues to approach Go-ho, but she firmly insists that she only sees him as a junior colleague. Surprisingly, Jung-min confesses that he approached Go-ho with the intention of sleeping together. Enraged by his audacity, Go-ho wants to confront Jung-min. However, Tae-hoo and Ji-hoon intervene, separating them to prevent any leakage of information between the teams. Unexpectedly, Ji-hoon and Tae-hoo end up giving advice to members of the opposing teams. The following day, Go-ho, accompanied by her director, Chang-sok, travels out of town to obtain the client's autograph. Chang-sok is a middle-aged man who remains single, and Go-ho appreciates how he treats her with respect as a woman. During their journey back to the office, Chang-sok accidentally stumbles upon Jung-min engaging in intimate activities with women. Witnessing the scene, Go-ho confronts Jung-min and leaves the car. While on her way home, Go-ho suddenly experiences severe stomach pain and feels nauseous. Left stranded at a rest area, she doesn't know how to get home. Fortunately, Tae-hoo calls her and instructs her to stay put. Relieved by Tae-hoo's presence, Go-ho falls asleep soundly in his car. Observing Go-ho's peaceful slumber, Tae-hoo smiles, reminiscing about their past interactions. He remembers how, as a new employee, Go-ho's actions always brought a smile to his face. However, Tae-hoo's happiness is dampened when he learns that Go-ho has a boyfriend. Filled with jealousy, Tae-hoo begins scolding Go-ho for minor mistakes at work. Despite this, he still treats her with kindness. One night at the office, Tae-hoo discovers that Go-ho has ended her relationship with her ex-husband. Overwhelmed by the sound of Go-ho's crying, Tae-hoo chooses to leave, unable to bear the weight of her emotions. After a short while, Go-ho wakes up in an awkward state, finding herself still in Tae-hoo's car. It is a rainy night, and Tae-hoo's demeanor becomes sweeter, causing Go-ho's heart to race. Tae-hoo's newfound tenderness is unlike anything Go-ho has ever witnessed before. Go-ho believes that Tae-hoo is about to kiss her, but instead, he gently wipes away the tears on her face. The following day, Jung-min meets with Go-ho, explaining that the incident Go-ho witnessed the previous day was a mere misunderstanding. Jung-min confesses that the woman involved is actually his sister. However, Go-ho remains skeptical of Jung-min's explanation. As time passes, the competition between Team A and Team B intensifies. Tensions rise within the teams, leading to a heated confrontation inside an elevator, which is witnessed by their superiors. One afternoon, Yang Jin-young, the advertising model for the Promise Project, visits Go-ho. Jin-young delivers the news that she will no longer be modeling for the ad. She also reveals that if a model replacement occurs, Ji-hoon's Team B will automatically win, rendering Team A's efforts futile. Feeling indebted to Tae-hoo, Go-ho secretly confides in him about this critical information. The following day, Go-ho is assigned to do a photo shoot on set, accompanied by her co-worker Park Jin-hoo. Meanwhile, Go-jun, unable to reach her daughter, decides to visit the company where Go-ho works. To her surprise, Go-jun encounters Ji-hoon, who holds a special place in her heart as Go-ho's ex-boyfriend. During their conversation, Go-jun takes Go-ho's side, fabricating a story for Ji-hoon that her daughter has found a wonderful man who has become her boyfriend. Meanwhile, on the set, a romantic incident occurs between Park Jin-hoo and Go-ho. Unfortunately, the incident leads to Jin-hoo dislocating his left hand and having his camera stolen by unknown individuals. Go-ho becomes even more stressed by this unfortunate turn of events. Upon returning to the office, she discovers that Ji-hoon has met her mother. Go-ho emphasizes her discomfort with the situation between them. Moreover, Ji-hoon has never provided answers to Go-ho's past inquiries about why he ended their relationship. As a result, Go-ho desires to maintain distance between herself and Ji-hoon. Later, Go-ho pays a visit to Jin-hoo, who is currently recovering at home from the incident that took place the previous day. To her surprise, Go-ho discovers that Jin-hoo has been secretly acting as a father figure to his nephew. Go-ho compliments Jin-hoo's caring nature, but he responds with a mischievous attitude. Upon returning home, Go-ho finds Jin-hoo following her. At the same time, Tae-hoo and Jung-min also arrive to see her. Unbeknownst to them, Ji-hoon observes their interactions from a distance. Eventually, the four of them decide to eat and drink together. In a subtle manner, each of the three men tries to win Go-ho's favor, although she remains unaware of their intentions. The following day, the previous night's events have left all four of them exhausted, and they struggle to stay focused during work hours. Shortly thereafter, Go-kang approaches Go-ho outside the company and urges her to contact their worried mother, who longs for Go-ho's presence. However, Go-ho and Go-kang end up arguing, as she believes that he has never understood her longing for their mother's love. In response, Go-kang confesses his own emotional burden, having received affection from their mother when he was an unemployed man. After the heated argument with Go-kang, Go-ho seeks solace by indulging in the spiciest menu at her favorite restaurant. Unfortunately, the intense spiciness causes Go-ho to lose consciousness and be hospitalized. Disappointingly, the person who comes to pick her up is Ji-hoon, failing to meet her expectations. Go-ho is once again irritated by Ji-hoon's attempts to explain why he chose to end their relationship. However, she has reached a point where she no longer wishes to listen, leaving her with no choice but to cry. The next day at the office, Go-ho notices that Tae-hoo is in a foul mood. Simultaneously, the perverted producer, Yoo-chan, once again harasses a woman, and unfortunately, it turns out to be Go-ho. Witnessing this incident infuriates Tae-hoo, who sternly warns Yoo-chan. Tae-hoo then approaches Go-ho, who is visibly affected by Yoo-chan's behavior. However, instead of worrying about herself, Go-ho expresses concern for Team A, led by Tae-hoo. Tae-hoo silences her with his hand, indicating that he wants to talk. He inquires about Go-ho's plans for the upcoming weekend. With a twinkle in his eye, Tae-hoo reveals that he is asking Go-ho out on a date. Go-ho is taken aback by the unexpected invitation but feels immense surprise and happiness. This feeling intensifies when she notices Tae-hoo's reddened ears and witnesses his uncharacteristic display of sweetness. Sometime later, Tae-hoo and Go-ho embark on their weekend date. However, Tae-hoo becomes annoyed upon discovering that Go-ho has to work. Due to Jin-hoo's stolen camera incident, Go-ho is compelled to retake the photos they need for future shoots at their current dating location. Tae-hoo ultimately decides to assist Go-ho, dedicating his time until nightfall. However, he becomes engrossed in capturing beautiful photos of Go-ho. This fluctuation between Tae-hoo's kind, sweet, and occasionally exasperating behavior leaves Go-ho feeling unfamiliar and confused. Unable to contain her puzzlement, she impulsively hits Tae-hoo's stomach. Tae-hoo becomes angry and scolds Go-ho. However, this unexpected turn of events only serves to heighten the romantic atmosphere between them. As they both regain their composure, an awkward silence ensues. Tae-hoo then drives Go-ho back to her house. At this moment, Go-ho seizes the opportunity to question Tae-hoo about why he transferred her to another team. Tae-hoo explains that it was for Go-ho's own good, as he didn't want to develop feelings for his team members. Finally, Tae-hoo opens up about his true feelings for Go-ho. The night is filled with overwhelming happiness for Go-ho as she cherishes Tae-hoo's confession. However, their joy is short-lived as Ji-hoon suddenly appears, dampening Go-ho's mood. Ji-hoon finally reveals the reason behind his breakup with Go-ho, explaining that it was due to his family's financial difficulties. He didn't want to burden Go-ho with his struggles and didn't want her to suffer alongside him. However, Go-ho remains unmoved, as Ji-hoon was in the wrong for not disclosing the situation from the beginning. Ji-hoon insists that he's sharing this now because he wants to start their relationship anew. However, Go-ho can only cry and leave without responding to Ji-hoon's plea. The next day, Go-ho is surprised to see Tae-hoo, whose shirt is wet from Yoo-chan spilling coffee on him. Tae-hoo notices Go-ho's swollen eyes, indicating that she had been crying. Tae-hoo instructs Go-ho to buy him a new shirt. However, he gets into an argument with Ji-hoon, as Tae-hoo doesn't want Go-ho to be constantly under his influence. Fortunately, Chang-sok intervenes, diffusing the situation by offering to accompany Go-ho to buy clothes. As a result of this incident, Ji-hoon finally discloses to Tae-hoo that he is Go-ho's ex-boyfriend who still harbors feelings for her. To their surprise, Jong-min and Jin-hoo overhear Ji-hoon's revelation. They admit that they also have feelings for Go-ho. Later, Go-ho returns to the office and presents Tae-hoo with a new shirt. On this occasion, Tae-hoo massages Go-ho's puffy eyes, reigniting her feelings for him. However, Tae-hoo mentions that he doesn't want to hear the details of what happened between Go-ho and Ji-hoon, which made her cry. After changing his shirt, Tae-hoo encounters the three men who also have feelings for Go-ho. In a lighthearted manner, they playfully assess each other's personalities, looks, and other qualities to determine who is most deserving of being by Go-ho's side. However, their actions are caught by Chang-sok, who unexpectedly joins the competition to become Go-ho's partner. When Go-ho expresses her desire to buy a drink, the men eagerly compete to persuade her to choose their recommended drink. However, in the end, Go-ho selects Tae-hoo's suggestion. Later in the evening, Ji-hoon returns to see Go-ho and once again implores her to restart their relationship. However, Go-ho firmly refuses, insisting that her heart now belongs to another man. Unbeknownst to them, Tae-hoo observes the interaction between Go-ho and Ji-hoon, causing Go-ho to feel awkward and attempt to avoid Tae-hoo. However, fate eventually brings Tae-hoo and Go-ho together. Tae-hoo reassures Go-ho, expressing that he doesn't care about anything else as long as she genuinely cares for him. Sometime later, a dinner event takes place, but instead of enjoying the occasion, Go-ho receives news that Go-kang has gone missing. Concerned, Go-ho rushes to her mother's house to discuss the situation. Go-jun becomes even more worried upon seeing news of a suicide that shares similarities with Go-kang's situation. Feeling confused, Go-ho seeks solace in Tae-hoo and shares her problem with him. Together, they embark on a search for Go-kang, checking various locations. Eventually, they locate Go-kang, who is found intoxicated on the street. Go-ho becomes annoyed and impulsively strikes Go-kang out of frustration. However, after the emotional outburst, Go-ho and Go-kang apologize to each other for their mistakes. Go-kang explains that he has been plagued by trauma as he constantly sees reminders of their deceased father. Sometime later, during the weekend, Tae-hoo and Go-ho finally have an uninterrupted date, free from the distractions of work. Taeho takes this opportunity to confess to Go-ho that he has been secretly in love with her for the past 4 years. It is a moment of vulnerability for Taeho as he finally expresses his feelings for her. However, their blissful date is soon overshadowed by the news of Ji-hoon's father's passing. Go-ho finds herself consoling Ji-hoon during the funeral as he clings to her for support. Taeho is unable to intervene, and he watches as Go-ho provides solace to Ji-hoon in his time of grief. Witnessing Ji-hoon's sorrow and loss, Go-ho begins to realize the importance of not being indifferent to her own mother, even though her mother has always favored Go-kang. Go-ho does not want to live with regret if something were to happen to her mother, so she seeks her out, tears streaming down her face, ready to mend their relationship. As time progresses, Taeho and Ji-hoon continue to vie for Go-ho's affection. Just as Taeho is preparing to visit Go-ho's house, he spots Ji-hoon already there. Ji-hoon faces rejection from Go-ho for the first time, and he finally accepts that Go-ho's heart belongs to Taeho. The series concludes by depicting the men who once had feelings for Go-ho as they move forward with their lives. Each of them has their own flaws and merits. Meanwhile, Go-ho remains steadfast in her love for Taeho, and ultimately, they are able to pursue a relationship together. The moral of the story is that true love can't be won through rivalry or grand gestures alone. It's not about who can impress the most or outdo the competition. Instead, it's about being genuine, kind, and embracing your own unique quirks. So, let us remember that love is a whimsical adventure where being yourself is the key. And if you find someone who appreciates your silliness and loves you just as you are, then that's the kind of love worth holding on to, even in the midst of all the twists and turns.